Hello everyone, I'm Nick from nextstepnick.com and today we're going to talk about In Other Waters. So first things first, thank you very much for the developer for sending me a code for this. I've had a really good time with it so far. It's an interesting game and straight away you're going to kind of think this is either for you or it isn't for you. In regard to gameplay, what you're seeing right now is kind of it. There are different elements in regard to exploring the underwater world, but what's basically happening here is it's very story rich, and you're playing as the support towards a deep sea diver who's on a different planet looking at different life and trying to find a scientist that basically has disappeared. They've got a past going on there, but they've disappeared and we've gone there to kind of follow up and find out what's going on. We are kind of controlling the suit. So we're in control of the movement, but they're actually down there. So what you're basically seeing for the most part is the suit itself. You're doing things like, for example, controlling this suit, and you're also looking at where to dive, working with them. There's this kind of hint that you might be a program or maybe something more, but I won't go too much into that because the story is really one of the reasons why I would say to come to this game. It's fun and it's different, and at first I didn't feel that way. There was a bit of a wall in regard to playing this because, as you can see, it's not going to be the most amazingly graphically intensive thing you'll ever see. You're on this planet with beautiful life, and the problem is you don't really get to see very much of that. This is kind of what you see. A lot of the description kind of tells you what things look like. You're told what things look like by the doctor on the ground, who's actually inside this suit underwater. But it's one of those things where it's got a lot of different systems that are kind of used well. For example, when you're gaining samples and things like that, it's very, very complex. It's the kind of game that reminds me of things like Eve. Like, you generally feel like you are piloting this suit here. You generally feel like a part of the world and you're drawn in quite easily. And when it first starts, you're overwhelmed. I'm going to be honest, you're very much overwhelmed by the start of this game. There aren't so much tutorials per se as in-game sort of tutorials where you learn things from how the game kind of inquires you to do things. But you're kind of left on your own, and that can be a bit frightening at first because there's so much going on. As you can see, there's a lot of different controls here, and there's not really anything on the screen right now that's there for aesthetic reasons. They're all there for a reason. So, for example, those two gauges on the left-hand side, you've got your power and your oxygen. You've got underneath this, you've got your yes and no responses, which are the two flags. You've also got your up and down arrows to control, for example, when you're going to different depths. So here I'm going down into a cave system, and we're exploring in there. In regard to it, though, it does draw you in. Very strangely, it draws you in. I mean, the controls are complex. For example, what I've just done now, I was using a controller to play this. I've pressed B to ping the area. I've then moved with the right stick when it comes to the map itself, but actually selected the area I want to go to with the right stick. Then I've clicked on A, then I've clicked A again to move, then I've clicked B again when I got there. It's very complex. Likewise, when it comes to the actual data itself, it's very heavy. It's one of those games that you kind of start playing it and it feels like you should have a spreadsheet to go alongside this, but at the same time, it's got this really odd way of storytelling that I quite like. You get these yes-no responses where you can kind of go along with what Ellery, the doctor on the ground, is saying, or you can say your own opinion to an extent. You can say, well, yes, I agree with what your hypothesis is here, or no, I disagree with what you're saying here, maybe there's something else to it. And I quite like that in regard to interaction. I like that mystery that's behind us as a character as well. And it's one of those games that once you've played for a while, you generally start to get quite invested. You start to feel like you're really controlling this technology. At the start, it was very clunky for me. It felt very difficult to sort of go around, get data, put that data in when I get back and sort of go through the information and read through all this data. But by the time you get further in the game, you actually start to feel like you really are piloting this machine. You're this advanced level pilot, and all of a sudden those clunky controls I was talking about are just second nature. And you do start to feel a bit like, it's strange, a mechanic or an engineer or a pilot. It feels like you've got a specialisation here and you're good at what you do. And that's quite a nice feeling, to be honest. The music itself is really nice too. I've put that in the background, so you're going to be hearing that music sort of looping. Really, really nice. The one complaint I do have, though, is that music just... there's not enough of it. I mean, like here, for example, in the game, yeah, it's nice, but at the same time, you'll find quite a lot that the music just isn't playing. It just goes quite quiet, and you've just got the sounds of the water and the moving around and things like that. There's like a puzzle solving element, so it's not just a case of a walking simulator for the most part. It can feel that way though, but I enjoyed it. I mean, the one thing I would say is, as I said at the very start of this, it's not for everyone. You're either going to love this or you're going to hate it. And it might be one of those games that you really enjoy and you get into the plot, or it might be one of those things that you play for 10 minutes and you're bored to tears. And I can understand both responses, to be honest. When I first started playing, it was very difficult for me to see that entertainment factor. But like here, for example, when you're doing this complex navigation and doing all these different things at the same time, it feels really nice. It's really nice. The one thing I would say is I wish there was more on a visual level. I wish there was more variation here, because you can see here I'm using items to make different things happen with these stalks and these plants underwater, and I'm collecting samples and things like that. But there's not enough of that. You get told quite a lot how beautiful things are, but you never see them. And I get that to an extent, but I want to see more of this world, you know? It seems like a really interesting place, and I feel like you're kind of held back by this system. But yeah, it's an interesting game. So this is In Other Waters. Thank you very much again for the code. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you've really enjoyed this. It really helps out in regard to the channel, and hopefully I'll catch you again very, very soon.